for joining us here at the GMAT Club MBA Spotlight. We are excited to present to you Berkeley Haas admissions questions and answers, and you're going to learn a lot of really valuable information. To get started, I'll tell you, my name is Jen now, and I am the CEO of Aringo Admissions MBA Consulting. And so at Aringo, we really help our clients with reaching their dream schools by really crafting those applications to match that of the school that they're most interested in. So excited to help you out, or to be with you guys here today. So we'll get started by having a quick introduction. So we have with us today Brandon, who is from the admissions team at Haas.
Hi,
And
everyone.
then we have Chen, an alumni from 2018. He's in New York right now. And then we have Sharifa, who is also a classmate of Chen. She's in Oakland.
Hi, nice to be here.
Awesome. And then we have a brand new student, Juan, who is in Buenos Aires. We're starting the program a bit remote. So excited for everybody to be with us today. As we go along, you can always submit up some of your questions via the live stream, and we'll get those at the end of the session. And now I'll turn it over to Brandon.
All right, thank you. So I want to say thank you all, of course, for joining us here. And I'm going to be talking to you about the Berkeley Haas full-time MBA program. And once again, just thank you for joining. So let's get into it. Next slide. So when you are looking for your MBA, first off, we want to make sure that you think about all of these different reasons. These are some of the more typical reasons why we find people are looking to gain their MBA. So you might see one of these, you may see a few of these, but definitely think about all of these things throughout this entire presentation, whether it's to make a positive impact or whether it's just to chase your dreams and to become a better leader. All of these things will definitely apply within Berkeley Haas. Next slide, please. So Berkeley Haas, we are honestly built on 4 defining leadership principles. If you talk to any current students, any alums, any faculty, staff, you'll find out that this is honestly what our culture is about. So questioning the status quo, showcasing confidence without attitude, being a student always, and always going beyond yourself. These are the 4 pillars of Haas, of our Haas culture. And when everyone always asks, well, what does it take to become a Haasy, to get into Haas? Honestly, when we're reviewing our applicants and looking for that holistic review, this is what we're doing. We're looking to see if you're going to be a great culture fit and to make sure that you're going to align with our 4 defining principles. Next slide, please. So we are definitely committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Through here, you will see a few of our diversity partners, including the Consortium, MLT, Forte, the National Black MBA Association, and Reaching Out, ROMBA. So all of our students, they are definitely committed to this, and they realize that within all of these different organizations, they interact and overlap with one another. We have our Haas DEI team, all of our admissions representatives, our admissions advisors. We all are focused on every ounce of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We honestly feel like that's part of our brand. It's part of who we are. And we want to continue that and make sure that it showcases throughout our entire program and throughout all of our interactions as well. So here's some of the stats that so many people are really interested in. They want to know what our full-time class looks like. So 37 countries represented, 331 students. So this is a pretty large class. Normally we bring in a class of just under 300. However, 331 is definitely great. 21% international students, 39% women, 39% US minorities, 17% underrepresented minorities. And also I want to just point out that, of course, these are all percentages, these are all numbers, but we just love the fact that we are able to bring in a diverse class, and that's also meaning diverse backgrounds. So you'll see different top undergraduate majors: economics, social sciences, engineering, business, commerce. That does not mean that you have to come from the traditional business background. We definitely want to have a class and a makeup of a wide range of students. We want to make sure that everyone feels represented. So don't feel like if you're not coming from a quantitative, heavily background, that you wouldn't be welcomed or received at Haas, because that's definitely not the case. Excuse me. Next slide. So our students are very involved. We have more than 40 student organizations. And when you think of it as being a class of under 300, there's definitely going to be some overlap. So many of our students are involved with so many of these different organizations just throughout their tenure. It's 2 years of your life, but then it's also 2 years of your life. So it's a short time frame, but it's also a pretty long time frame as well. So you'll see Women in Leadership, the Latinx Business Club, Black Business Student Association, the Finance Club. So some of these clubs will be industry specific, and some of them will be more so around just your general interest. So when you think about the wine club, or Q at Haas, or the beer club, and our bear clubs, there's so many organizations for you to get involved in. And if you don't see one that aligns with what you want to see, then we welcome you to create it. So student-led conferences. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Berkeley and its whereabouts, we are like less than 30 minutes away from San Francisco. And that's also going to bring in opportunities for our students to lead conferences and to lead showcases. It's definitely a very collaborative nature throughout Haas as a whole. Case competitions, all of these things will be part of your experience. And we feel like that honestly allows our students to be very, very well-rounded. So life in the Bay Area. Life in the Bay Area is honestly amazing. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so I am not a Bay Area native or even a California native. And I must say that I have been very impressed with just the Bay Area as a whole. Next slide, please. So beaches, of course, there's honestly a lot of them around this area, and just the scenery, the wonderful weather. I think it's like typically around the 70s. It's 71 right now. I'm in downtown Oakland, so there's definitely great weather and great outdoor activities. Next, please. Including that, there's wineries, of course, the famous Napa Valley. There's Lake Tahoe, that's less than 3.5 hours away. There's Yosemite National Park, that's less than 3.5 hours away. So you definitely have a lot when it comes to living in the Bay Area. Next slide, please. Applied innovation. So a lot of our students will, or all of our students, excuse me, will have hands-on learning opportunities, and they take full advantage of these. These are more than likely going to be consulting projects where you will work with a company or maybe a nonprofit organization, where you will get hands-on experience as to whatever your interests or your goals are. So that could be through Haas at Work, it could be international business development, clean tech to market, food innovation studios. There's definitely over 20 opportunities for applied innovation courses, and we want to make sure that our students are getting those hands-on opportunities. Next slide. We have 3 currently concurrent degree options. So the MBA plus MPH with the School of Public Health, the MBA plus MEng with the College of Engineering, and MBA JD with Berkeley Law. And also to speak into these, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to complete a concurrent degree. If you are interested in another subject, you do have full access to UC Berkeley, the top public institution in the nation. So you definitely want to spread yourself out and venture out into things that you may be interested in, and just know that this is maybe a once in a lifetime opportunity that you may not be able to receive again in studying at UC Berkeley. So we also have a graduate certificate in business, and through this, about 20% of our students will complete the graduate certificate in business. There's one required core course, 3+ elective courses, and you can see you'll work with data analysis and presentation. So it's definitely a great opportunity for you. Just have to think about if this is something that you would like to add on to your current degree that may take away some of your elective courses that you may be interested in elsewhere, but it's definitely a great opportunity. And global options. Haas, our alums, as well as our partnerships, they will be definitely global. So even though we are in basically the epicenter of technology and what's next when it comes to the United States, there's so many other opportunities globally. And we want to make sure that you are aware that these are available for you, whether that's going to be through international business development as one of those applied innovation courses, or just other opportunities for you to partner with global organizations. They're definitely available for you. And as I said, the epicenter of what's next. We're right here next to Silicon Valley and home to so many of the amazing tech companies like Apple and Tesla innovations. So you definitely have that know-how and that drive to find the specific tech function that you may be interested in. And when you think of tech, you definitely want to think of that broadly because it goes into so many different areas. It's not just the traditional tech that we may think of when we're thinking of like computers and software and hardware. It definitely goes far beyond that. And if San Francisco stood alone or the Bay Area stood alone, it would be the 5th largest economy. So definitely you want to think about this and to think about your location and how that benefits what you want to do and where you want to go next. And we definitely partner with a lot of these same corporations that are right here because we want to make sure that our students have the opportunities that they seek and that are going to honestly create those next level leaders. Next slide. Here are some of those particular partnerships that we have through Tesla, Amazon, Deloitte, Cisco, Twitch, Genentech. So there's definitely a partnership for some of the major corporations that we have here. Outside of that, there's also some of those nonprofit and smaller organizations as well that we partner with. But I'm sure many of you will probably see some of these names and they'll seem very familiar to you. Next slide. So also for entrepreneurship, we definitely want to make sure that you are well equipped, to build your startup. And you're going to be partnering through our career management group, our finance hub, Berkeley Skydeck, the Launch Accelerator. There's so many different ways in which you can find out exactly what you need to do to start your business. And they're all here for you. And the Berkeley Haas startup support. So there's been $117 million plus raised by startups, $100,000 in the Dean's funding. And we're also the 7 top MBA startups of 2020 through Poets and Quants. And our career management group resources, there's career coaches, relationship managers, peer advisors, industry specialists. So you'll definitely have support not only from our career management group, but also from your peers. And I think that that's definitely a great benefit. As I stated, Berkeley Haas is definitely collaborative, and we want to make sure that that comes across throughout every aspect of the program. And the career management group, they're honestly stellar. They're amazing. So you'll definitely have a lot of the support that you'll need when it comes to career. And our alumni, they're invested in your growth. So there's 41,000 Berkeley Haas alums, 46 Berkeley Haas global alumni chapters, and nearly 500,000 UC Berkeley alums. So of course you are part of Berkeley Haas, but then you have to think grander. You're also part of UC Berkeley. So we want you to take advantage of the full alumni network. They definitely want to be there for your growth. So now speaking more so on the admission side of things, of course, our round 1 deadline was September 24th. Round 2 is going to be January 14th. And round 3 is April 5th. Decision dates December 17th for round 1, March 25th for round 2, May 13th, for round 3. And if you are consortium applicants, your round 1 deadline will be October 15th and round 2 is January 5th. And we want you to connect with us. So I actually co-manage the Haas Student Ambassadors. This is the lovely group of people that you see on your screen here. The HSAs are a wonderful group. They are basically the right hand to admissions. And they are all students, now second years. So we definitely want you to connect with the Haas Student Ambassadors, the international student representatives for any of our international prospective students, consortium liaisons for any of those students who may be interested in the consortium or applying through the consortium. And you can explore our admissions page. Directly under admissions, you can see our admissions events as well as the contact us page, which will have the links and the email addresses to the Haas Student Ambassadors, the HSAs, the ISRs, and the consortium liaisons. Right. Thank you for reviewing my presentation.
Okay, awesome. So, Brandon, that was a great presentation. I'm excited for you to incorporate some input from our current student and alumni. So with that, we'll have everybody kind of introduce themselves.
All right, so as you all know, I'm Brandon Toney, Associate Director of Admissions here at Haas.
I'll hop in next. My name's Chen. I'm Head of Talent Development at Credit Karma, and I graduated in 2018, and I've been at Credit Karma for the last 2 years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sharifa Dunn. I graduated Haas in 2018, as mentioned earlier. I'm currently still in the Bay Area and actually taking a break right now. I joined Tesla actually after graduating and had just recently left. And so a lot of the things that Brandon talked about in terms of tapping into the alumni network and CMG, which I'm now doing as an alumni, is something that I'm starting to pick back up now after I've kind of taken my break and now we're starting to kind of get back into Silicon Valley, a clean tech space, energy. So a lot of exciting things and look forward to your questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Juan Pedro Pera, currently starting my MBA. I'm class of 2022 pass, hopefully. Probably starting with my recruiting in some weeks, aiming for consulting or tech. Still defining.
All right, thank you all. So I'm going to actually go ahead and start off the question here and going to do a roundtable and just talk about how Haas is either preparing you or has prepared you for your career. And Chen, if you would like to go first.
For sure. So I went to Haas thinking that I was going to recruit for consulting, and then partway through my first year, I realized like this is definitely not the right fit for me. And so I would say the biggest kind of benefit that Haas provided me was having 2 years to be surrounded by folks who were really passionate and interested in the work that they were doing and really excited to help me uncover what exactly it is I want to do with my career. rather than feeling like I had to like immediately hop into a track and then follow that track to its destination without any opportunity to change. And then while I was at Haas, since my career now is in talent development, I was able to take quite a few courses that were related to people operations and people development, as well as just to develop a lot of skills around influencing, socializing a strategy or a narrative and a vision to leadership and to stakeholders that have been really critical in allowing me to successfully drive change and initiatives at my company now, and also just feel confident and comfortable, in any room that I walk into, no matter who I'm interacting with on my business side. I'll hand it off to Sharifa.
Yeah, I think for me, I came in with a very clear objective into Haas. I had started my career in the banking sector, covering actually power utility companies. And I wanted to come to Haas to really, one, get closer to Silicon Valley and where a lot of the tech was developing in the clean tech space, but also develop some really crucial industry knowledge. I had been kind of on the outside of the clean energy space, or even the energy space more generally. And I thought it was important to really get closer to it, both physically and mentally. So really coming to Haas, I explored a lot of different things. I tapped heavily into the broader UC Berkeley network, especially given some of the schools focused around energy, around environmental sciences, and really networked outside of Haas and made a point to do that. But also within Haas, obviously there's a lot of great resources that I leveraged in classes and courses that I took in order to really kind of arm me to position myself to be competitive when looking for that full-time opportunity after Haas. And so I did a lot of work and really was focused in terms of my course load and my networking, and as well as my recruiting around clean energy, coming in and going out. And obviously, as I mentioned before, landing an opportunity at Tesla, which was an amazing thing to kind of walk out of Haas with and be at one of the most exciting companies, not only in the Bay Area, but in the world, and have an amazing experience there. But even now, as I've kind of started to look for my next opportunity, I've tapped back into Haas and to the alumni network, as well as the career management office. And it's been actually amazing to kind of see what resources I have, even as I've sadly left 2 years ago. So yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to Juan to kind of finish that out.
In my case, I'm only starting, and if you heard about fear of missing out, well, that is real. That is real, because when you see that some of your classmates are doing venture capital, and some of them are very involved in the tech club, and some are taking the consulting recruiting very seriously, which is, well, it's happening right now, and in the following weeks. They say, well, what am I choosing? There are so many options. The options are so diverse that you need to focus on what your passions really are, and stay focused, and try not to drink more water than you can handle. So yeah, I think that is my perspective so far.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. Okay, so as we mentioned, we're opening up the Q&A session, and we have student and alumni here. And so we really want to kind of focus some questions on them, since it's really hard to gain access to this audience sometimes. So, keep entering in your questions, and we'll be directing them to everyone. And then, so we'll go ahead and get started with some of the pre-submitted questions. This is one question about: what is one key aspect does Haas look for in a candidate who is an engineer, non-IT Indian male with 4 years of experience in leading a family business and his startup?
Yeah. So, as I stated during the presentation, we're honestly going to be looking. Of course, we're taking the holistic view. but we're also looking for that culture fit. And that culture fit is also going to include your academic and your professional background. We want to make sure that you are well-rounded throughout your entire application. So if you are, say, an engineer from India, I definitely have seen many of these applicants, and sometimes a lot of them can seem to have a lot of the same qualities. So that's where you want to make sure that you stand out. You want to find out or see what it is that you're doing differently that sets you apart from some of your peers. Are you leading? Are you doing different leadership things? Are you involved in the community? Do you have additional certifications or anything else that maybe sets you apart from some of those traditional engineering applicants? And don't be afraid, and this is honestly for everyone. If you are looking to apply to Haas, don't be afraid to tell your story, and tell your story in enough detail to where you honestly paint the full picture for us. We don't have any gray areas. We don't have to fill that in. You want to make sure that you are telling us your exact career goals and those details. Even if it's a pivot, make sure that you explain where this pivot is coming from and what experience you have leading into this pivot. So just be as detailed as possible. Don't be afraid to share some of your story. Talk about your family business. If it doesn't align when in your direct essays, like the what makes you feel alive and why, or your leadership profile, then move it into your optional essay. It's there for you to talk, to honestly expand it and talk about whatever it is that you want to include. So definitely don't be afraid to share your story.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Brandon. Okay, so now I have a question that could be answered by anyone. It's more about like, everybody kind of has this perception of Berkeley Haas of more of like a social impact. And so, can you guys kind of talk a little bit more about how it's beneficial for people who are interested in nonprofit, social impact, and the government space?
Whoops. I'm happy to share just from some classmates of mine. I think one of the really big impacts is you're not, even if you're interested in these things, you'll be surrounded by peers and folks who will be pushing you to kind of broaden your perspective on how might for-profit industries or traditional industries interact with these spaces and come up with creative partnerships or creative opportunities to have joint ventures and work and grow together. But then there's also just a ton of programming available through the various clubs and also organizations on campus that give you opportunities to interact and start building your network and community directly with these types of organizations while you're still a student. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the Haas curriculum is that there's enough flexibility that you can carve out time to explore these like non-traditional or niche spaces. In my case, it was people development stuff, but I also did like a nonprofit consulting project as part of an applied innovation course. So there's lots of, I think, great opportunities from what I've seen from my classmates to be able to jump into these and explore these spaces, even while you're getting your traditional MBA education.
Thank you, Chen. Okay, so the next one is about students that are interested in the environment and sustainability. Any insights to provide for how students can kind of thrive in that area at Haas?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think there's probably more options than you have time for. Sadly, I think for me coming in, one is the course load. There are clear courses that are centered around the environment, around sustainability, and the opportunity to take those courses throughout your time at Haas is always there for you. There's things around. They're all going to escape me right now. One of the big ones that I did take while I was there was Clean Tech to Market, which was mentioned in the presentation, which is one of the applied innovations classes. So that, for me, was probably the most impactful course that I took while at Haas. And it gives you the opportunity to partner with a startup, typically in the Bay Area, and help them bring together a go-to-market plan and really leveraging your skills as the Haas, the business mind, and partnering with students actually across the university. So I partnered with physics students, I partnered with chemists to bring together like a holistic plan to provide to our startup partner. So that's like one key project that and course that I took. Additionally, you have access to Berkeley, which is the club focused around energy. And that also is made up as one of the few clubs that's made up of students across the university as well. So you see a swath of students from a lot of different disciplines coming in and really coming together, again, to talk about clean energy, sustainability, climate change. And then I can't remember the name offhand. I wasn't as involved, but there is a center within Haas around sustainability more specifically. And I had a couple of classmates that were really involved in that organization. Maybe Brandon knows the name of it offhand. But I think there's just so much opportunity, both professionally in terms of networking. There's specific nights geared towards energy networking and allowing you to meet all of the people and alumni in the space in the Bay Area. And then, leveraging industry specialists, CMG, which I'm doing today, to really have specific and geared conversations around your plans and how you want your career to develop in the space. So there's a lot of things that I'm missing right now, but definitely a ton of resources available to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Okay, next question. Another big thing that draws people to Haas is the closeness to the Silicon Valley, which I know that we've talked about a couple of times throughout Brandon's presentation and some of the conversations. But a lot of students have been asking about the connection to the Silicon Valley, being able to work with big tech, even as it relates to Lyft and some other like kind of mobility transportation. Sorry, I'm kind of lumping them all into one. But can anybody speak to more of that connection to Silicon Valley, how those opportunities happen, and kind of share your insights?
Yeah, I'll jump back in here just because I'm actually, as given my time at Tesla, I'm sort of also gearing into the transportation and mobility space. We do have a relationship manager at CMG. His name is Doug, who has a ton of strong connections with all of the mobility partners within Silicon Valley and actually beyond that. And so he has been a huge resource for me in terms of creating connections and also just putting my resume out there to recruiters, because that's really what his job is to kind of create and foster relationships with recruiters at a lot of these big tech companies. And so Doug has been hugely vital in that space, especially around transportation and mobility. But obviously that relation and that role is not specific to Doug. There's a ton of folks across CMG that are really focused on developing relationships specifically with a lot of these big tech companies. You saw all of those names that were across the slide there earlier. And I can name classmates at probably every single big tech company who are working in those companies today. And so, yes, the relationships run strong and deep here. And it's definitely up to you to kind of take advantage of those and reach out not only to CMG, but also to the alumni that are there and also always willing and wanting to help a fellow Haasie.
Yeah, and I would say whether you're reaching out to an alum or not, it's really nice to just have this stamp on like your LinkedIn or your emails or whatever saying that you're a student. People are far more willing to talk to students and just like share their experiences and perspectives. And Juan, I don't know if you've been able to tap into this in your time there, but I just remember I would cold outreach folks, that I had never even really like paid attention to their work before or what their company does, but they were so willing to open up and just like open those doors because people know that Haas is a big part of the Silicon Valley community, and also like the brand and the branding of being a student can open up a lot of opportunities for connection.
Excellent. Okay, so the next question is for you, Juan Pedro. So you probably had a lot of different opportunities to choose different schools. What made the Haas stand out for you?
Well, that's a great question. Making the decision was hard, but in the end, I think I trusted not only the brain and the head, but also the heart. I think that people at Haas make the difference, and by making the difference, um, I can tell you a story, a very short story about a friend, a real friend whom I work with at a consulting firm, and this person will tell me, Juan, people at Haas are like you and me, and I immediately knew what he was talking about. I think the environment is super collaborative, truly collaborative. I think that some of the values shine there from the very start. We do not need an explicit agreement to know that the values and the defining principles are there. So this was truly a defining principle. Besides, I think I'm in a very special situation. I have a family, and I decided that I wanted to take them to the West Coast, to California. Living in the USA Village is something that it was a differentiating factor for me. So in the end, I chose an MBA for three, my wife and my baby, not just for one, and this was also a deciding factor as well. Plus, being immersed in the West Coast, in the best place in the world for entrepreneurship, and where big tech is also very present. Well, the combination was totally killer for me.
All right. So next question. This is I'm going to pop this question up, but I'll add some others. So essentially, when you were applying to these schools or to the top schools and applying to Berkeley Haas, how did you differentiate your application to be successful? And so that's open to alumni and Juan. And so, what did you do, or what advice do you have for others who are applying to Berkeley Haas and how they can submit their application and stand out?
I think it will sound as a bit of a cliche, but the best thing I did when submitting my application to Haas was being as honest as I could. Yesterday, when I was checking in with an admissions officer from Haas, he said, "Well, we really look forward to see honesty in the applications of our candidates, and I think that is an aspect that I can recall that." If there is any one defining thing that I could mention, it was that, being honest. Plus, if you can transmit some passion and you're really passionate about something, it will show. It will truly show in your application. Interviewers will ask you questions about this, and they will immediately know how passionate you are about certain topics. So being honest is the best way to shine in this application. I think there's also an essay about hardship, and I definitely wanted to show a bit more about my life, not only the positive side, but the other darker side, and the moment in which I experienced not so good moments with my family, and I decided to include that as well. So I think that was a differentiating factor in my application.
Excellent. Chen, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think when I was applying, I kind of just like looked at school rankings, and whichever schools had good rankings, I was like, all right, I'll toss it an application. In retrospect, I think something I should have done is spend a lot more time trying to understand, like, what is it that I wanted to get out of the culture of a school, or wanted to get out of a community. I was very fortunate that Haas ended up like aligning perfectly with my values and the way that I like to interact with people and the type of community I want to be a part of. But I think I could have told them, so I feel very fortunate, and I think I could have told a much more compelling story and a much more honest story if I had done that reflection beforehand.
Sharifa, any advice?
Yeah, I would add, just in terms of advice, take opportunities to connect with alumni, to connect with current students, kind of how you are doing right now, and do that at every school. I think the best way that I kind of got a real feel for the culture, and for the authenticity and the honesty that my co-panelist mentioned is really talking to people. That's how you get a feel for what the school is about. And I think I underestimated how important the culture of the school was, in terms of crafting and developing my experience and who I was, or who I wanted to be walking out of business school. And the relationships are the most important piece that I've walked away from business school with. Regardless, I think of where any of us go in life, I know that I can always count on the 249 other Haassies that I shared my 2 years with there. And that's the one thing that I think, apart from the professional piece, apart from, the networking, that I'm not going to forget. I even get emotional thinking about it right now. And I continue to kind of tap into that network, years later, and I can't imagine having it any other way. So to really get a feel for the people, and who your potential classmates could be, what do they look like, what do they feel like, because I think that's super important.
That's great. Great advice. I think that that's probably one of the number one things that candidates usually kind of, they're more about working on how they could look good to the school, but you want to make sure that the school looks good to you. It's not just the rankings that are important for you. Okay, excellent. So our next question is centered around COVID-19. So I think Brandon and Juan, you're going to have the best kind of answer for this, but how is COVID-19 shaping the recruitment for the next class, and how is it impacting the current cohort? Do you think that you'll be returning to campus soon?
Yeah, I'll start here. So definitely, as you see, there's been a lot more virtual events. And honestly, I can say that these have been good, mainly because we get to honestly connect with so many students who maybe probably would not have had the opportunity to connect with otherwise, even though we do recruitment globally. We can't be everywhere at one time. Whereas in the virtual world, we can be in so many different places at one space and at one time. So we're definitely doing a lot more virtual recruitment events, and we're trying to do more one-on-one sessions as well. Because a big thing about Haas, as you've heard, is honestly the community and the way that we connect with one another. And I think that in the virtual world, that can get a little difficult after a while. People get zoomed out. So it really takes a lot of creativity to figure out different events that you can do that will bring in people and still have that same connection or that same feel as though you were in person. So we're definitely doing more one-on-one sessions. We have one-on-one advising sessions that you can sign up for, 15-minute chats with admissions officers, as well as we do admissions Q&A sessions, and we have current student sessions with our Haas student ambassadors. So we're definitely trying to still have that personal approach through this virtual world.
I think you can also address this question, Brandon, from the academic side. I think that some right now we are fully online, and I think we expect to be in that way for Fall B as well. Contrary to what you may think, the experience of having online classes was better than I expected. Courses such as data and decisions, namely probability and statistics, you can learn as much as you would on an in-person class. And then there are courses more about speaking and about leadership communication, for example. Definitely what you want to do in this course is just try to convey a message to your audience and having an online audience all around the world. I had one of my classmates being in London, taking the course from London. I was in Argentina. Many of my colleagues were in San Francisco, but everyone connected on Zoom. The experience was incredible, and the feedback we got from our speeches was the same, exactly the same that I would have got if I had done my speeches in person. It was the description of how I was looking on camera was as accurate as I could have done it, as if it was a self-reflection. Plus, I think that a game changer for education these days it has is the new, help me out with the official name for this, Brandon, you can, but we have a classroom with lots of monitors. Actually, the face of each student is in one of these monitors, and the professor is there, so you actually see the whole community, the whole class. There's a whiteboard as well, and you can see the slide. So it's much better than Zoom, and I think that a great advantage of this online setup is that you save a lot of time in commuting and jumping from class to class or to a speaker series or to another event is at the reach of one click. So I think that the experience is much better than I had expected, and I have no concerns so far.
Excellent. So we are in our last few seconds. Brandon, do you want to close with anything?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all, of course, definitely for joining. And as you see here, Berkeley Haas, we are a community. We definitely want to ensure that you feel welcomed and that you feel like you can see yourself here. And if you feel that way now, or as you continue to connect with current students and with alums and with staff and faculty members, as long as you feel that way, then definitely this is the right place for you. If you do have any questions concerning applications or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. We are available to you. And I just want to say thank you. And of course, stay safe to everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. It was so great to meet everyone. And thank you for your valuable advice. Bye.
Thank you all.